TV, anime, video games, books, Star Trek, Marvel, My Hero, Hook. It don't matter what you into, don't matter what you do, here on Nerd Shit, we got something for you.
Welcome back to Hypothetically Sound Presents-Nerd Sh, where we talk nerd shit. And as you can see from the title, we're on to another episode of The Walking Dead. We're on season 1, episode 3. The title of the episode is Tell It to the Frogs. So how are you guys feeling so far? 3 episodes back into The Walking Dead.
And it's reliving stuff and wondering what you missed and trying to pick up other things that you may not have seen the first time.
True. Alec?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say, actually. No, it's interesting to see how the characters started off again.
Mm-hmm.
Some are a little bit different than I remember. Some annoy me way more.
You don't know who that is.
No, yeah. It is interesting. Like, you forget because of how massive their personalities change, and rightly so, in a post-apocalyptic world. You just forget how they were as regular people. So as always, we'll start with a quick plot synopsis for the episode, and then we'll start talking about what we liked, what we didn't like, questions we have, things like that, in case you're new to the podcast. So this episode starts with Merle on the roof where he was handcuffed. This episode starts with Merle still on the rooftop of the department store where they left him handcuffed last episode. He's yelling, swearing vengeance against Rick, and then he's begging for God's forgiveness when walkers start trying to force the way through the door. And this opening scene ends with him saying he'll never beg God again while reaching for a hacksaw. And then when the episode comes back, it's Glenn in his Charger leading Rick in the group back from Atlanta, where Rick is reunited with his wife Lori and son Carl and Shane. As a group is reunited, they discover a walker nearby, which they quickly dispatch. Though there's fear that this may be signs of trouble, foreshadowing for the episode. Or future episodes, they discover Daryl coming back from a hunt, and he learns of Meryl's fate and becomes furious at Rick, and they had to hold him down. Feeling guilty for leaving Merle handcuffed, as well as wanting to retrieve the bag of guns that he dropped in the first episode, Rick arranges a rescue group with the dismay of Shane and others. While Rick is gone, Lori tells Shane that their relationship they've had for the last couple of months or weeks or however long it's been must end. Shane gets a little bitter and upset. Later in the episode, Shane sees Ed beat his wife Carol, and then he takes things into his own hands and beats Ed to the point of almost death, and then threatens to kill him if he ever touches any woman again. And the episode ends with Rick, Daryl, and whoever else went with him, Glenn and T-Dog, getting back to the rooftop only to find Merle gone. They find a hacksaw and Merle's hand still on the roof, and Daryl goes into a fit of rage and screams as the episode ends. That was a lot. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was going to say that one was a lot covered in that now that you said it out loud.
So, I guess we start with the opening scene of Merle struggling to get the hacksaw while walkers are descending on him. What did you think of that opening scene?
I think it's actually it takes a lot from things that could happen now when you're stuck in a situation like that, and if you're someone like Merle where you have a lot of hate for a lot of people, things are going where they're dire, then all of a sudden you're switching in your life, going begging God to give you the way and all that, and it goes a little religious in them because you don't get an immediate response to the response you think you should, then you're back to cursing cursing it out, cursing out everything and saying, fine, I've been doing it myself. And it's just interesting how they started it with him begging like that. And then he just switched back into who he really was.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say. I think it's an interesting way to start it because I feel like it could potentially it could potentially have been like the end of the episode showing him
last episode.
Yeah, of the last episode. Sorry, showing him struggling to get out, in the dire situation. But I think it's also, I suppose, like, it sounds weird. It's also a good tension grabber, right? Because it's like, oh man, what does he do when they get back there? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. And go ahead. Sorry.
I was to say, I think it also kind of sets the tone for the entire episode, though, for being there, because you've got, Lori later going off about the lies that Shane told her. And I can't think of the character's name. That was digging the holes.
Jim,
yeah, Jim, with how he progresses along, where he gets, wakes up from a dream and then is digging so much that he gets sunstroke and forgets what he was digging for until the end of the episode. It's just kind of sets up for a lot of revelations for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. No, I think going back to how they started the episode and how they ended the episode, I think if they wanted to do the Merles and like start like they did, I think it would have been much more powerful to go from seeing Merle struggle on the top of the roof to meeting Daryl for the first time. So if they went from that to the opening credits, and then we come to a scene of an arrow hitting a deer. Like, we don't even see who shoots the arrow. We just see arrow shoot a deer, and then a walker start eating the deer. And then it goes to Rick and them, like, hearing the walker, and then you meet Daryl. I think that would have been a better opening, and they should have ended episode 2 with them getting back to camp and Rick seeing his family for the first time back at camp as the end of the episode, not the first scene after the credits. I found that scene really just misplaced, and it felt like an ending. It felt like a conclusion to an episode, not the preamble to an entire episode. Like, it's such a big emotional stake, and they meet, and I guess it can play into like how the world works. They meet again, and then they instantly find a walker, and then he sleeps, and we wake up, and then he's gone again. I just feel like they could have had the ending last episode opened with Morrow, opened with Daryl, and it would have set a better precedent for the episode. At least that's
I think that's fair.
See that?
I actually agree. I think it probably would have been a better scene or a better thing to end on than start on.
Mm-hmm. And I think I don't know if they knew what they were going to do. Like you said, it's a different writer after the first season, so maybe he had a different plan for what Daryl and everybody was going to do, and Merle and them, and maybe they weren't going to be a huge plan of the going forward. But I feel it was like a lackluster intro to a character who is literally your main character for the entire show. Like, he is, next to Carol, the only people that are in the show the entire time. All but 2 episodes, Daryl's in. At least that I know of. I'm pretty sure he's in almost every episode.
Pretty good for a character that was never part of the comic book series.
Mm-hmm. And so it's just weird. Like, I feel like Daryl and Merle were like characters they were just going to kill off, but they got popular. And it seemed like not a good intro for Daryl. I think it could have been, like, hindsight obviously could have been better. So what did you guys think of I know I talked about it real quickly, but the scene where Glenn comes back with the horns bearing, the alarm blaring on the car, and then Rick seeing his family for the first time.
So I think that scene shows a lot of character, or at least starts of character development, and pushes a lot of personalities. You got Glenn being the young, naive guy who we do later on see grow up, but it really stresses in that scene that he's still kind of carefree and not really taking the apocalypse super seriously, if that makes sense. Then you have Dale, who's super, super worrisome. I feel like that's the start of Shane's villain arc. Seeing his best friend alive. I won't say villain arc, but I think it's the start of the break that leads to said villain arc. You see Lori be worrisome. See how clueless Carl was to everything going on around him. Things like that,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's just the shock from Lori, and then the look she gives Shane when she's hugging Rick. There's more to it at that point.
Well, you see them like they go off and have a little sexcapade.
They do have a sexcapade before they show up.
Yeah,
before they show up. So obviously they're. Oh, you meant like she thought he was dead.
Yeah, that there was more to why she thought he was dead, and that Shane had something to do with it just because of the way she was looking at him. And it's not until she goes down to get Carl when they're when he's with Shane getting frogging, that she actually tells him, and that's when the audience knows, oh, it's because he told her he was dead.
Yeah.
Also, not to shame Shane or anything. I don't blame him for thinking he was dead. I'm just saying.
No, I don't. I definitely there's no reason to think he was surviving that. Even you put a thing in front of the door. What the military is going door to door. You think he's dying. You think he's going to die to at least the military's hand, or he's just going to die because he's getting no medical care and he's in a coma. And if people are in a coma without medical care, you assume they're going to die. So yeah, I don't blame him for that. Everything else I do blame him for. Don't get me wrong. I get love is love. You can't control at that point who you love. You've been with her for now, and she's with you, and then all of a sudden she's not. It sucks. But a lot of the issues that come forward, even in this episode, is Shane's fault. He sets a bad aura, aura obviously, but he I don't know, he just pushes negativity, and it just seems like just downward spiral. Already, it has been 2 days, and he already is plotting the death of Rick again. It's weird, and Dell sees it for the first time. He sees the true anger and hatred inside of Shane. He starts worrying there about Shane. I will give them credit though, the acting. Just Lori and Shane. It's not even anybody else in that opening scene where he sees the kids again. Carl obviously is a 10-year-old, wasn't a very good actor early on. Rick, I think, grew and became a better actor as it went on. But Shane and Lori, just their looks, the non-spoken communication was fantastic. It was fantastic acting. But one thing I do want to talk about real quick is the car. I mentioned it before, but this is the episode where he drives up in the Charger, blaring. Why didn't they just drop the car off on a different side of the town and just all got into the box truck? There was zero reason for him, zero reason for him to bring that car up there, other than him wanting
for Rick or one of those guys to say something like, "Hey, you can't, you need to get out, or we need to figure something out."
Yeah.
But that was just, again, like Alex's point earlier, where he's just a naive little kid at that point. He's a young man that's just never had a chance to experience life. He was delivering pizzas, and he got a car, probably his dream car, and was just like racing off, and maybe they just couldn't catch him.
That's possibly true. Yeah.
He was just having fun and not even thinking about that because he was in the moment.
Never gets brought up, but do you think they blame him for the zombies coming?
No, and the reason they wouldn't is because Dale made the comment that the sound was bouncing off and there would be no way to pinpoint exactly where it was coming from. And everyone's like, well, true, but still.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what do you think of? Obviously, as the episode goes on, they do that. They go. They see Darrow for the first time, and then decide to go back in to town. A hypothetical question: you're Rick in this scenario. Do you stay with your family that you just found again, or do you go back in for the gun? Because he's clearly not going back in there for Merle. It's just a side quest. The main quest is getting the guns. Do you go back into town?
He went back for the hat.
You know what? I do believe he probably went back for that.
For the hat.
But no. We would chillax for a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because as far as they know, there's not another group of survivors or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there was no rush other than getting Merle. So him going, I think that gave him his reason to go.
Go back and the mistake he made.
And I wonder how much in his mind, like obviously, how much in the writer's mind as he's developing this character, does Rick think he's untouchable at this point?
I don't think he does. I think Rick is still sane enough. I think, like, in all reality, like, all jokes aside, I think him going to try to save Merrill now after meeting the people and seeing that his family was there was like, oh man, we kind of need to go get those guns because I need them now more than ever because of my family. And then, like, Merrill was part of this group, and he obviously doesn't know that they're bad. He just knows that they've been with Shane and his wife and kid, right? And he's probably like in the whole like protector mode. Like, I need to protect all these people because they're obviously good people for taking care of my family while I was away.
Yep.
Yeah. Between that and the fact that he was a law enforcement, and you're always wanting, at that point, you're out there to protect and serve.
Yeah.
And even though T-Dog said, well, I dropped the key, so this is on me to tell Daryl. Rick's like, well, I handcuffed him and left him. It's on me, not you.
Well, that and that and Burrow is real racist, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't know if they were like, oh man, his brother's gonna be pissed. I was like, he got a racist brother too? Yeah, let me just say I fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it wouldn't have been good to have T, because I feel, I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah, and they did say that. I thought, it might sound better coming from a white man.
Yeah, no, 100%. If we run over a dog on accident, like, extreme hypothetical, I'm not going to run over a dog. But if we do down here in the South, I'm not going to be the one that admits to it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not taking that risk. Like, you're not saying every white person is racist, everybody in the South is racist or anything like that. But when there is a smaller white woman, it's going to come off better that way. That's how life works.
So you're going to make me have to tell someone that you...
I feel like you would want to. Like, if we're just going to say shit, I feel like if that ever happened, that you would want to go talk to him for some reason. Like, you just like delivering bad news or something.
Again, never going to happen.
No.
But,
Never say never.
True. I have hit a deer once.
Rest in peace, Cadillac.
Only one time.
You gotta catch up to me.
No, I'm good.
No, let's not.
I'm good. It's my favorite car.
I've never destroyed a car. Yeah.
True. No, Grandpa's truck.
True.
So only two things left that happened in this episode. Let's takes on them real quick. So once Rick and them leave for Atlanta, a scene takes place at the little lake they're at where the women are washing clothes, and Ed comes and ends up striking Carol, and Shane ends up beating him down. Takes his anger out on him, beats him down, bloody, a huge bruised mess. My question is, and my issue with this whole scene, it's not that he beat him. It's the fact that everybody in the camp knew this was happening. And did nothing. And now it happened. And now Shane did something. And like Carol's reaction is the reaction of someone in a domestic abuse situation. That's unfortunately how a lot of the situations play out. They see it as their fault. They still want to protect them, love the whole nine. And so like Carol's reaction makes sense to me. But the fact that no one's done anything up to this point is kind of baffling to me. Like, it wouldn't have been, like, literally any of the guys could have just punched him in the face one time after seeing it. Like, do it again, I beat you more. Like, obviously, Shane went too far.
So my only argument to that is, Murrow probably beats the shit out of his wife. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They both wearing wife beaters. Daryl's kind of like in the beginning on that fence.
Yeah.
So if his brother's doing it, he's not going to stop him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are two guys that I think could. Dale old as hell.
True.
Glenn, a kid, like 19, right? Or something like that. He young. I just feel like the only person who could is Shane. Like, could reliably is Shane, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Shane didn't give a shit.
True.
And thinking about that, just in general, Shane kind of just a bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was losing it from the moment Rick got back. His attitude started changing.
No, 100%. He flipped the switch and went back to Rick's here. He has everything I want. I'm a jealous little kid. I'm gonna take your ketchup off your burger. That's weird. And then the final scene of episode 3 is them arriving on the rooftop to see a severed hand. How did you feel about the closing scene of this episode?
Okay, if you've never seen it before, that shit felt bad. That was like, oh my god, I can't believe he would do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then it leaves like a did he die kind of deal. Obviously, cop out for writers, but yeah, the first time you see it, you're like, sheesh. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Seeing it now, it's just, and I know the things, it's just kind of like, eh. But still, it still kind of has like that little bit of effect.
Yeah.
Would you be able to cut off your hand?
Hell no.
Even if you knew that zombies were coming at you?
I would find a way to unalive myself. Yeah.
See,
I would rather do that.
I don't like. I'm sitting there and it's chain locked. There's almost. I don't think they're getting through the door.
See, I agree too, but you got to remember they built a little different in this scenario.
True.
In season 1, they built not right. Something's a little weird about them. You know what I'm saying?
Well, plus he didn't see that. He couldn't tell how it was chained. He just saw them trying to come through the door. He didn't know that T-Dog had chained it and locked it.
True. So I don't know. Obviously, if you want to live, you do that, but like you have to, you're on a very, very small timer to get that clotted so you don't bleed out. Like a very short time. And then it just becomes a question, like, you're already gonna struggle escaping a rooftop with 2 hands. Now you had to do it with one hand while bleeding out and being lightheaded.
And that's what I'm trying to say, right? Is like there is no world where it seems good.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are just kind of boned no matter what.
And at what point? I mean, there's points where the pain threshold you would pass out.
Yeah,
Depending on the person, yeah, but there's also the bleeding. And like I said, it would just be a lot easier to hold place and have like a suicide idea versus, not. But it also bugs me because I feel like he was there for a minute, like a long minute, and he didn't see the hacksaw until they started almost busting through. You know what I'm saying?
that's the thing. I feel like he could have, like,
He could have
broke
figured
the
something
pipe
out.
off. He could have something, like, he could have weakened the pipe or the chain on the thing enough to break it instead of cutting off his hand. Like, because that's a lot of power to cut off your arm.
Yeah,
Or
the
your
only thing
hand.
I see him, you see him kicking is the big thick pipe. He's not kicking on that thin rod, and
that
that's
could
where
be
I
part
would
of it.
be
He's
concentrating.
not very intelligent. So, like, that could also be part of it. Is that's what he thought was his only option, was to cut off his hand because he didn't see the pipe as a movable object. Would have been funny though, like if they're filming it and he kicks it and the pipe just breaks.
Oops.
But yeah, that's episode 3.
Wait, I have one other observation.
Mhm.
So, because with Lori being with Shane, when you were saying that, when Rick and her are in the tent,
Mhm.
and he looks over at Caro, and she
Yeah.
goes, "Don't worry, he won't wake up." If that's your wife, and she knows that he won't wake up if they're having sex, wouldn't she? And you never were in that position, wouldn't you want to know how she knows that?
Yeah, that's true. That is a specific knowledge to know. Like, how do you know what he'll wake up to and what he won't wake up to?
I don't know. I don't really want to know why my wife be doing this.
I think a lot of it does come, like, he says, obviously, like we'll get to it later, but he says, like, he chose to ignore certain things,
Yeah.
and that's probably one of them that he chose to ignore.
Or later thought about it and then ignored it when
Mhm.
things weren't starting to add up.
Oh no, he probably thought about it right then and then and just decided to ignore it. Like, things happen. It's a different time. Things happen. But anything else? Anything else you guys want to bring up for episode 3 before we send it home?
No.
Well, thank you guys at home for listening.
Thank
As
you.
always, you can find us on Hypothetically Sound, podbean.com, anywhere podcasts are found, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Twitter, on Facebook, everywhere. We post daily. We post. We all do the lollipop. I don't know.
That's
Anyway,
weird. That was weird.
we all post daily, so make sure to follow. And until next time, have a good day. Deuces.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Hypothetically Sound. We hope you enjoyed the episode. All episodes can be found at hypotheticallysound.podbean.com, as well as on Apple, Spotify, and Pandora. For full unedited video versions of the podcast, please visit us at youtube.com/hypotheticallysound.